All right. No, this is not me. Son of a biscuit. Come on. There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody, to CPS Victims Hunting for Justice. I am your host, the CPS Punisher. Guys, I got to reiterate the impact that this upcoming election is going to have on our cause. I know that a lot of you say, screw the government. I know that a lot of you say that, we're not going to vote because, it doesn't count or it doesn't matter. I know a lot of you just don't even believe that system works. But I need to stress to you the importance of this round of election and the people that are going to be up for this election. This movement is at its max capacity right now, guys. This thing is moving on all rails here. And for us to make this thing work, we need to really start paying attention to which candidates are supporting what bills that are supporting CPS or not supporting CPS or going against them or abolishing CPS or whatever they may be. We need to pay close attention to this because, can you imagine the amount of work that all of us have put in over these years, and now we get such a massive amount of followers that we need to get together and solidify into one group. This is what's the most important thing, is making sure that everybody gets together and solidifies as one cause, one group, one function, one voice. Because with us scattered everywhere, we don't have the power that it takes to take on what I would like to say is the biggest corrupt government agency in the world. So we need to really focus on how we're going to get together as a group. I have a pack it up campaign, meaning like wolves, the wolf pack. A wolf by itself is definitely dangerous, but a wolf with its pack is going to be unstoppable. So that's my little twerk on that. And that's what we need. We need things like that. We need something to get us together. There is so many of us that have been hurt and harmed by the CPS system, that we've had our children stolen or our friends' children stolen or whatever. It goes right down the line. There's been 10 million kids stolen from families in the past 20 years. And that's just the ones that have never returned home. That's that nasty number. But that's 10 million of them. So just including the 10 million kids that have been taken and never returned home, I figure every person has 10 people that are affected by that. You do that math, 10 times 10 million, that's 100 million. Only 150 million something voted in the last election. So can you imagine if we were here supporting the abolishment of CPS or to support the candidates who are against CPS corruption and all of this, and we showed up in a massive 100 million strong? Can you just imagine the shock that people would have, that they wouldn't even be able to have voter fraud around us? They wouldn't be able to have any sort of anything that represented their fraud or their antics, because there'd just be too many of us to blow out of the water, to blow their things out of the water. It needs to be real. We need to take that from a dream and we need to make this into the real thing. I want to welcome tonight. We have our guest tonight with us, Melissa Hara. She's become a fast track star, and we also, she left Herbert, and we also have our law enforcement czar, Herbert Petty, up there. Herbert, what do you think about the upcoming election? Look at this, Herbert. I didn't put your name. I put a little Herbert Petty, law enforcement czar, right there on the screen for you, buddy.
Nah, you could take out the petty part. Just leave it as Herbert.
All right, Herbert, we'll take that down. So, Herbert, what do you feel about this upcoming election and the importance that it has with what's going on in CPS? Like, what role does the police departments take up in a local election? Are police chiefs usually elected? What roles do the police departments have in the elections?
Well, the police department has lots of roles, for budgets, for more recruitment. Everything's normal for election for police departments, but how it applies to CPS is why I'm on your show. I'm trying to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Are police chiefs elected? Are they elected officials? Are they voted in by the town? Or is it different in state to state to state?
It's different state to state to state. Depends on what level. If it's a police chief of a large department, yeah. It could be voted in by the city. If it's a small police chief in a small town, that's going to be voted in by the commissioner, police commissioner. Not voted. I said hired.
Right.
I should use the word hired by police commissioner.
Right.
So it's all depends on where.
So it'd be
But how does that affect CPS? It doesn't.
well, it depends.
As far as we are still security guards.
Right. But it depends. I mean, wouldn't do police chiefs and so on that run for that office, do they have a platform that they run off of, like who they support, what they support, and so forth?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I'm.
Yes, they do.
So it would behoove people to look into their sheriffs, their police chiefs, and make sure whoever they're voting for is going to be someone that supports the parents' rights first before the. I mean, I get what you're saying, that the police have a role with CPS that's their responsibility regardless, to protect them and protect the person at the home when the CPS goes there. They have a neutral obligation for both sides, I would say, from learning from you. But it would behoove people to look into who their police chiefs are and so on that are going to be elected officials and see where they stand, to be sure that they vote for the people that are going to vote to out this CPS.
And make sure their wife ain't the. Make sure the wife of the police chief ain't the director of your local CPS agency.
Which that happens a lot, right? There's a lot of that going on, isn't there? Like,
yes, there is actually the deputy chief of our sheriff's department. His wife is the director of our DHR. The judge used to be the attorney for our DHR, and the current attorney is his best friend. I mean, they're all in bed. So, when voting for local officials, it's better to find someone who is new to your area, who is coming in to stir up shit, because they're not in bed with all the rest of them.
No, I agree with that. You need to have someone that.
And you have a. This is Melissa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry,
Melissa,
it's really dark in my. It's really dark in my car, so my camera don't work for crap.
I just want to make sure I'm talking to. So I'm saying you live in a small town in Alabama.
Yeah, but they're having similar issues in Mobile, Alabama, and that's not a small town.
Well, Mobile is not small, but it's smaller than Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. I would say about a third smaller, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also smaller than Los Angeles.
Right, but we've learned.
Learned is definitely.
Numbers don't matter in this situation, because we got Maine has the highest rate of abuse and neglect in this country per capita, and the population is like 1/10 of that of LA. So, I mean, number sizes don't really seem to pertain in this situation.
Right. Yeah, there's probably darn near as many people in Mobile as there is in the entire state of Maine.
Right. So, but we're the ones that are leading the nation in the abuse and neglect. So, I mean, this thing.
And Maine is far smaller than Arizona.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again.
But when I was up north, and I had to deal with someone up in that area, the caseworker, her sister ran a third-party organization who worked with them, and of course it all got subcontracted. And when everyone misbehaved at the local police level, you couldn't go to your sheriffs or your state troopers because they were all related. I mean, they were all in bed together.
Yeah.
The corruption's far and wide. It don't matter how many, how big or small the city is. Money talks.
Truth there.
And unfortunately, they're like a administrative mafia.
Well, just to give you an example, New York City has over 30,000 police officers. There's no way they could be in bed together.
Well, I lived in Santa Rosa County, Florida, and we had 2,500 sheriffs.
Whoa.
No,
but,
I said 30,000 police officers.
We're going to say that
and they got as much corruption there.
We're going to say that there's no New York City corruption from cops, Giuliani and the.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So what are we going to say, that there's no corruption in New York?
No. You can have a huge department. You can have a small department. You'll have corruption with law enforcement. You still have that. But I'm just saying, in comparison to what Melissa was saying about the wife of this person and that person, it's too close knit. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, but I lived in a place with a couple 100,000 people living in it, and we still had the same problem up there in Detroit that we have down here. That they were all related to each other, and there was no one you could go to for help because the whole system was so corrupt.
Over 100,000 people, but you didn't have 100,000 law enforcement people. You had a smaller group.
No, you probably had about 7,000.
Yeah. And if you look at the 7,000 and break it into divisions, I could see where you, as you call it, sleeping in bed can happen.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about divisions. I'm talking about one district. 7,000.
I mean,
Okay.
It's not.
Detroit's Wayne County Sheriff's Office is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have 10,000 sheriffs.
Okay, so
easily.
How many police officers do they have in Wayne?
Sheriff's Department probably.
No, I didn't say sheriff. I said police. Or do they have police? They may not have police.
Maybe 50,000?
No, I'm saying some places may not have police. They may have only.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Metro Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, they have a police
the size of Chicago.
Yeah.
Hell yes, they have a police department. They have.
Right.
But just for the city of Detroit alone, they have 26 precincts within the city of Detroit.
Right.
In the outer suburbs, they have another 35 precincts.
Okay.
In the outlying suburbs around that, and this is all just in Detroit, they have another 50-some precincts. So you have over 100 precincts just in Detroit itself.
Okay. That's police. Then, on top of police, you have sheriff. That's not the same.
And they probably have about 25,000 of those.
Of sheriff. So we're talking sheriff department and we're talking police department. We're talking two different departments.
Okay, but let's talk about this. How many CPS agents now rival these amounts of police officers?
They probably have about 20,000 CPS agents.
So, I mean, in hand, we'll say that there's a CPS agent for each police officer that there is?
Damn near. And they don't come to your door that they don't bring one with them. Actually, they always come to your door in a pair of three.
That's
too many of them have been shot at.
That's the way that that's what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. Herbert and I have been just talking about the police presence and what they are responsible for and what they should and shouldn't do. And we've gone over that with some of these listeners and everything. And it's a crapshoot of what you get. If you get the ones that do their job right, where they stay neutral, or do they go and they help others? I mean, because they're supposed to be neutral in this situation. But if you're going to tell me that CPS agents don't bring them for an extra long arm of their own, then you're out of your mind. You're not going to.
Yeah, no, they are by no means neutral up there.
It isn't even
up there. They're not neutral. Like up there, they will force their way in.
Well, we watched this one video where, Herbert, do you remember where was that, Minnesota? Where that guy's family was, where they said that if the police see child abuse, that they can go ahead and write the warrant to go ahead and enter the house? Remember it was like the cops were Metropolitan or something? We watched that video, the guy with the 3 kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So the cops were actually able to write their own warrant when they were there if they saw some sort of a situation. That way, if
they saw something that was detrimental to the children, or the parents were doing something breaking the law, they could take on the situation themselves. It's in
Right.
plain
Heck, I got a family that I've been working with out of Tennessee, young mixed guy, and he 6 cops showed up at his house, pushed their way in. Well, they said that there's a woman in distress in his house when there wasn't even anyone there. And they actually used that as an excuse to come in there and screw with his kid. And before they walked out of his house, they had the CPS there waiting to take his kid. No grounds, no allegations, no nothing.
Is there any way you could bring
But
that? Is there any way you could bring that person on this show so we could talk to them?
Probably. Oh, I've got a video from the cops' vest cams.
Oh,
I've got the video showing.
Let's take a look at that. Can you send it to me?
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure out how to get it to do that.
You can just send it to me, whatever, and then I can go ahead from there. That would be really awesome to see some firsthand video stuff here and see personal. So that would be really cool. Don't forget to check out Abolish. Also, I put up the library today, so there's a bunch of papers and different case law and those type of things in there in the live valuable information section of the website. But check it out. There's some new updates today on different news stories. Trying to get more and more people in there to write on some blogs. The site just keeps getting bigger and bigger every day, and with the help of everybody, pitching in together, we can get it to be what it and how we want it to be. So if you could all just check out abolishcps.com, use it for your resources. There's a lot of information. There's a lot you guys can do there. So again, like I said, abolishcps.com. It's for you to check it out. Right now, guys, we're waiting for our guest Melissa to send me a video. She's actually got a chest cam video from some police officers that showed up in a massive amount of numbers to I'm assuming to remove a child. And this video is pretty damning, I'm going to guess, from the side of what Melissa is saying. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, guys, don't forget, there's a chat over here that you can sign in on. You can go ahead and look at that chat right here on the side. Click on that. We see your chat messages right up here. We can answer them if you have questions for us. If you have any sort of information that you want to pass along to us, if you have anything that
you had glasses on when you were watching TV earlier,
asked or told, just do that. That would be great. We will see and hear your what you guys are saying. So please feel free to do that on the chat. If you guys want to get in on the show, go ahead and let us know that you're interested, and then we can direct you to how to do that. It's been just overall. CPS is the news for national news for CPS climbing is going on across this country that are for helping you if you have a CPS case. If you are currently in the CPS case, there's a bunch of resources that you can use. Like I said, you can get those at abolishcps.com, but you can also go check out a gentleman by the name of Malibu Dallas. If you check him out on TikTok, he is a machine in the frontal lobe of law information, even though he's not a lawyer. But he's definitely right there telling people how to use information accordingly for their cases and how to assist and help them. Being an actual legal, he is, he is a machine. He works 24/7 for people. He's amazing. You guys should definitely, if you get the chance, check him out on TikTok. He's just pretty dang awesome. I'm sure that all of you who know who he is, so that's not anything. I have an interview with him actually get posted up. He's probably going, geez, Darren, where the hell's our interview? You're taking, because the guy is very, orchestrated with him all the time in the world. So it's quite a big honor to have him, involved. So, yeah, so he's one of the guys. I'm just sitting here. She sends me a video here about this.
Well, I'm trying to send it to you.
Okay, where do you want
it's kind of a large format.
Are you sending
So
it?
I may have to email it to you.
Okay.
Well, no, I might have to email it to you. I'm thinking you could probably just upload it to the page or something, because it's going to take me a minute to get it to you.
Okay. I'm gonna show, I'm gonna get a clip here, actually. I'm gonna do some of the magnets. Oops, shoot fire here. I want to take a look at this video here. I would like to. Where is this article here? Years ago, that was 3 years ago. That's not the one I wanted. Child Protective Services responds after parents speak out against the agency. I want you guys to take a look at this. This here, I just want you to also more so what these guys, what we're up against with what we do to bring you guys this as a news story that I'm going to share with y'all right here. It's just wait, you'll see. This is something, I'm telling you. And these people stop at nothing. And wherever my mouse is, I will be. Okay, here we go.
Two parents now facing charges of interference of child custody. Both parents arrested Saturday after an Amber Alert was issued for their 6 children who went missing with them. CPS was temporarily granted custody of the children due to abuse allegations. Yesterday, the parents spoke out against CPS's handling of their case. A spokesperson today releasing this statement that reads in part, quote, "Our job is to respond to reports of possible abuse or neglect from law enforcement, medical, school professionals, or the public and investigate those reports based on legal guidelines. We then present that information to a judge who then decides if there's any further action we should take. That process was followed in this case," end quote. The children are now together in a shelter.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news.
That's sad. Isn't that just sad? 6 children. Now, you know, they didn't tell us.
For watching KSAT.
They didn't tell us exactly what was going on here, but that was a pretty much clear outline of what the guidelines are, what to expect from the courtroom. It's just a sad situation that those kids were all 6. I mean, when there's 6 kids taken out of a family and they're all, they're all in a, it just breaks my heart. We need to make sure that these kids and these people, we went over it yesterday about the imminent danger, what that definition means and so on. We need to make sure that this stuff is true, what they're saying. We need to make sure that I'm looking for this.
Hey, Darren?
Yes, sir.
No, hold on a second. Hold on. Darren?
Yes, sir.
What part, you said what's true? What I heard, CPS had temporary custody over the children.
Yeah.
But then the parents took the children.
Yeah.
Which now puts out an all points bulletin.
Yeah.
After the parents and the children.
Right. And they also said that they gave an Amber Alert. They said that, right?
Yeah, they gave an Amber Alert because the parents took the children away from the CPS who had custody over the children.
But
it wasn't like CPS didn't have custody.
Right, but
so it goes back to why did CPS take custody? So we would have to know their story.
Of course we would. And that's why I said we need to make sure that these allegations are true, because they're ripping families apart like this. I mean, that's 6 kids. That's not a small psychological impact here. That's 6 children being removed.
Well, yeah, it is. But we got to know why.
Right. Well, I mean, they didn't get into it in that news story, but the point I was trying to make there was one about the Amber Alert, because they're using that against parents now. You're not finding kids that are getting kidnapped in the Amber Alerts. What we're finding is kids that are in CPS custody are being put on Amber Alerts. We're not finding kids that are actually just being taken. And I do believe
no. The kids were already taken by CPS.
Correct. And the parents came back and took the kids. They did almost what some people I know similarly did when they knew CPS was coming. They took the kid and ran off with the kid, and then they issued an Amber Alert against them.
Yes.
What I'm saying is the Amber Alert system was supposed to be used for kidnapping and child, things like that. I believe that there's even
that is kidnapping. Well, it's unfortunate.
I believe
it's a reverse kidnapping.
But can a parent be a kidnapper?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny because it's oxymoron, but it's reverse. Because the parents have the kids. CPS, as you would use the word, kidnaps the kids.
Yeah.
The parents turns around and kidnaps the kids from CPS.
Right. It's crazy. And it's just for something that we're covering is a voluntary contract that we get to forcibly or extortingly sign under things of threats of like, well, if you don't sign this, we'll take your child, or so on and so forth. There's multiple things and tactics that they use to say and state that they're going to take your child. So you sign this voluntary safety plan, which now that enacts you into contract with them, which is another no-no. We talk about letting people in the door, but it also is, once you sign this safety plan with them, now you have actually contracted them. And once you've contracted them, like we went over in that show the other day, which came out very incredibly, I might add, because of the quality, and I'm not sure what happened, but I have some people working on this. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But how fast it is, it comes from an innocent situation to next thing you know, you're signing a safety plan, and in that safety plan is just you're signing the rights away to your child, pretty much, because once you do that, you have a 12% chance of reunification, and that's using their own numbers, just doing simple math.
Yeah, but honestly, Darren,
so you're saying to me that
Darren, in the same though, the family that I was working with up there in Bangor, they're terminating the mother's rights because she never signed any kind of contract. They said she refused to participate, even though she did the drug testing, she did everything, but she did it through her profession, through actual licensed labs. She did parenting classes. She has a counseling certificate. They're starting to turn under the argument not with them. Right with the state.
Oh no.
Thing.
Yeah. We're losing you there, Melissa. Loading. I think what she said though was that that family in Maine, that they're terminating the mother, even though she did that they had asked. I think you're coming back, Melissa. No, they actually pushed her out. So I think that's what she said there, was that they terminated the rights. When I'm pulling up, I'm looking for this piece of new.
But again, with the Bangor, Maine, I would like to know why was CPS involved in the first place?
So that case with them was I believe, you can almost take my word for it, but I believe that it was a drug, some sort of a drug allegation from long past prior, that has come rehashed up and revisited to the mother and her child's child's. I'm not sure which way it is, but I believe that that's what it was. It was something from the past that had rehashed its face up during an investigation, and that took things into a longer, drawn-out situation, which made a simple situation seemingly turn into an inevitable TPR. And that's scary. That's you could be sitting there one day with your kid, thinking that you've beat your addiction and all of these things, and then all of a sudden the CPS agent comes to your door, holds you accountable for something you did 7 years ago.
Yeah, but the CPS comes to your door. You have to educate me. The CPS comes to your door because the court was involved. Am I correct?
Sometimes. But sometimes we hear that the courts have nothing to do, because don't forget, we have that rubber stamp. We have a lot of incidents where the courts are not directly involved. But yes, typically I don't know. So first of all, the answer to that is I don't know, because I don't know exactly the system. So when they receive a call, I don't know how that works. If they have to go and
okay. So are we saying that okay, the parents must have had some kind of connection with CPS years ago?
It would be fair to say, yeah.
Okay. And something happened along the line where CPS had to get involved again.
Correct. That's fair to say.
Okay. And those are the missing equations. Those are that's the blanks that we don't know.
Right.
We got to know what the blanks are. What's the missing blanks?
Well, if I know Melissa and you know Melissa the way we do, I'm pretty sure that we're going to hear it when she comes back.
I mean, I think I educated you once to the fact that if I get a call, that anonymous call, that at 12 Maple Lane, there's a woman screaming and yelling, and it sounded like there was gunshots going off, we're going to all respond.
Right.
And it was anonymous.
Right.
And you're sitting in your house looking at TV with your wife, and everything's fine. And
right.
all of a sudden, the police come banging at your door, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?" Well, we got a call. We want to see everybody in the house. You're like, "You can't come in here." Well, guess what? We're coming in.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
We're coming in because we got this anonymous call that there's something going on at that house, and I'm asking you to bring everybody out here at least so we can see who's in the house. And you don't want to do that. We're coming in. And it turns out you were doing nothing but sitting there eating popcorn, watching TV. And whoever called falsely reported that there was an issue going on.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost not go after that person because you can't prove that the person didn't hear that. Maybe they did. Maybe you guys stopped fighting.
Right.
You see? So that's where some people could have people's children taken away by saying, "Oh, I watched them in a grocery store. They slap them in the face. They knock them down on the ground. They punch the kid. Here's the license plate number," and they send it to the police.
Yeah.
The police stops the car on the road. It checks out the kids. Maybe the kids do look a little beat up and knocked around.
I mean, kids could typically look like that.
No. If this was true, the kid would look beat up and knocked around with a red eye or a black eye or whatever, and then there'll be questions. Then supervisors are coming out, decisions are made, CPS is called.
Yeah.
The child goes to the hospital. It's determined that this child received these bruises recently because the blood is accumulating around the socket of the eye.
Okay.
No, they're going to take that kid.
Right.
And then the parents are going to jump up and down. What's the matter? I was just disciplining my child.
Right. But what if I read you this? Check this out. I'm going to bring this out, this article for you, which I love to bring this out. This is from the Government Oversight Committee. And this is going to behoove a lot of people out here. Let me get into my files here real quickly here. While we're waiting. Wait till you hear this here. This is from the Oversight Committee. I get this one right on.
What happened to Melissa?
She's She's here somewhere. She's running.
By the way, did you have an opportunity to read my comments?
I did.
So you
But-
understand? You understand what I saw?
I do, and I have some questions about that. But hold on one second here. Let me get to this first for you.
Okay.
Um,
Well, those questions you might want to ask me off the air.
yes, agreed upon. Let me get. Here we go. Where is it? So
Because I just wanted you to know what people are seeing if they're in backstage.
let's see.
Because I watched the flag go up and I watched you put the new mic in place.
Yep.
You couldn't hear me, but I started typing to you to let you know what I'm seeing.
Oh yes. Those ones. Okay, I thought you were talking about the other things. Okay, here we go.
No, I'm talking about the recent one I sent you.
All right, here we go. So this is the
By the way, do we start at 8:00 or 8:15?
8:15. That's where we're at. I've been
Now-
setting the thing for
okay,
8:15.
now-
That way we get to the
Okay,
end of the
how
front
does
show
your
that
viewers
we,
know?
that way we can
How does your viewers know it's 8:15?
because I started.
I didn't know.
The show starts at 8:15 on the live platform. So when they go to YouTube or whatever, it will say 8:15, just like that link that I sent you will say 8:15.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. So it don't start until they get to there. So 8:15, guys, is when we're gonna start. From now on,
8:15. Okay, wait a minute. Now you're talking to the entire United States.
right. So 8:15 Eastern
8:15.
time
What time?
is when we will.
Okay.
We will start this thing. All right, here we go. Melissa's back to us now. Let's see which one does she want us in here.
It's 8:15 California time.
It is 4.
Believe it or not, it's 5:15.
Oh,
Yeah, it's 5:15.
okay, yeah, 3 hours behind us. All right, so
Yeah.
wherever you are in this world, it's 8:15 our time, and then work your way back. But I'm going to read this to you right here about what we were just talking about. Let me just pull it up here. Right here. So this is a letter. This is a report from the Office of Oversight, the Overseer's Office of Child Protective Services. And what they came up with in here is pretty interesting to you with what you're talking about with the child with a black eye and everything. Okay? I'm going to read this to you. So, let's see. Is this where it is? Safe child's considered. Investigation, activities, and review of collateral. Here it is right here. Boop. I marked it. Smart me. Okay. What child abuse? All right. So this is the right here. This is what the definition of a neglect is. It says a caregiver not meeting basic needs and has refused assistance, not protecting child from physical, emotional, or sexual harm by others, truancy of children aged 7 through grade 6, caregiver's absence or abandonment, or involving a child in criminal activity that involves danger of serious injury. Okay? Now, what child abuse and neglect is not. Some situations may indicate that a family or a child needs community services or support, but do not meet the definition of child abuse or neglect. Examples include living in poverty, including lack of food, clothing, or shelter that is not injurious to the child, accidental injuries, even if regular and recurring, parental and prenatal substance use, physical or mental impairment of the parent, including substance use if it has little or no impact on the child, isolated incidents of domestic violence when the child was not present, physical discipline like spanking as long as it does not cause bodily injury. Now, how many of those terms right there or those situations have you heard CPS coming for a child for, but yet the Oversight Committee has said this is not neglect or abuse?
Well, Darren,
Well,
that case up there in Maine, I know you was trying to kind of recall the fact that they're throwing in the fact that the mom had drug history 10 plus years ago. but their grounds for getting involved was actually a medical emergency with the mother because she has renal failure. So because she needed an ambulance because she had a medical emergency, she had no kids in her care, it was not drug induced. They used that as grounds to argue that they needed to get involved. And that was their grounds for taking the kid, saying that 10 years ago she used to do drugs.
Wow.
I've actually got the affidavit for removal. They did not say that she actively used drugs. They say that 10 plus years prior, she used to use drugs.
Wow.
So why they take the children away now?
Because she had a medical emergency, so it's their excuse to say she may have done a drug that day, even though she has drug testing from that day and a couple days before that says she was absolutely negative, and they refused to accept it. But the fact that she used to do drugs is grounds that they say to steal the kid and screw her over. Luckily, through my intervention, Grandma is now probably going to get the kid.
Thank goodness.
And we're going to have to take Mom's case up to the appellate court. When they did not have grounds for the removal, they did not have grounds for the dependency, and they damn sure don't have grounds for the termination.
Wow. Well, guys,
so let's make believe, Melissa, let's make believe she did have drugs, illicit drugs in her system when she went for her renal failure. Would CPS get involved with that? Just make believe.
Well, I mean, if she had drugs in her system at the hospital, yeah, they'd probably get involved. But when the ambulance showed up for the medical emergency, CPS showed up with them. And there was no argument about drugs. It was just that she was having a hard time waking up. She was swollen. She was very ill because she's stage 4 renal failure. And her mother was there, her father was there, and the kid was actually with her mother. And it was a true, just regular, old-fashioned medical emergency. They did test her for drugs, and she was negative. But that was still their argument for taking the kid.
So the mother was there. She had her grandma was there.
Yes,
but
grandmother, grandfather, and the mother had to go to the hospital.
Right, mother had to go to the hospital, but grandpa and grandma was there. Why can't the kid stay with grandpa and grandma?
The kid was staying with grandma. Grandma's been the primary caretaker the entire time.
Why would CPS take the kids?
The argument was Grandma has been raising the kid. Okay, Grandma was the primary caregiver. But the argument is she has drug history. I swear, I swear. No, mother.
Oh, no, wait.
They said that.
Okay, I get the
10
mother.
years ago, the mother had drug history. There's no other arguments or allegations.
And then they probably
There's nothing else there. That's it.
Hey, and if I know the state of Maine and how they operate, they probably said that the mother was helping her out with her. They didn't recognize her use patterns or so on and so forth, right? That they didn't. That's why she's not. They can't tell when she's high, or they're not. They're not hip to see these things. That's probably what they said about grandma.
Well, Darren, what I'm saying is the mother.
They called grandpa. They called grandpa an alcoholic when he's never drank in his life. And they said that grandma is an enabler. But she was not positive for any drugs. I have the drug test. I have every transcript from every hearing. They never actually told the judge that she was currently using any drugs.
No, but go back to grandma. You said grandma was an enabler of the daughter?
That's what they would. That's what I'm knowing that.
Yeah, they say grandma enables the daughter, and grandpa. Yeah, grandma. They said grandpa's probably an alcoholic, and they said that grandma is an enabler.
Hey guys, let's take a time out on this one for everybody to think about. Let's bring in Tanya. We got a guest here. Let's hear what Tanya has for a story for us. Tanya, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we totally can. Tanya, where are you from?
I'm from Massachusetts.
Oh, you're right down the road from me.
Yeah, you're in New Hampshire, right, or Maine?
I'm in Maine, yeah, which close enough. I'm 45
yeah,
minutes from Boston.
we're somewhat neighbors.
All right. So what's going on with you, Tanya?
So DCF involvement started. Well, let's just start with my son that was just taken kidnapped from his school. He disclosed to me that his father was sexually assaulting him and abusing him. The disclosures I literally walked in the door from court because I filed for a modification to update our custody agreement, because our custody agreement had him with having physical custody, and we had shared he had primary physical, and we had shared 50-50 custody in 2017. Yep. But he only did that just to inflict pain. He didn't want our son. He gave him back like almost immediately after the 2017 judgment. So I think within 6 months I had him in my full custody, where I had to literally drop out of college, quit my 2 jobs. As soon as he got paid back back to child support, he requested of $9,000. He just said bye. And so he left our son with me, and I was so happy to have my son. I didn't, say a word, but of course I had to go and do whatever I had to do to, get a home for us. I was living on my dad's couch. So I ended up going on government assistance, and we settled down in the town of Spencer, which was like a dot on a map of nowhere from Boston. I had no clue even of the town, but we settled here in this little town, and it became our home. And for 2 years he basically just never really came around. He would show up once in a while, and he'd visit with our son at my house, or he'd do a day visit. He always took Christmas. I was never allowed a Christmas with my son. I've had like 3 Christmases his whole life in 9 years. So he wasn't really part of his life at all for a while. And then when I met who I'm with now, my partner, he got angry and controlling, and he decided to come around and start taking weekends. And that started in about 2019, 2020. From there, he started to consistently take every weekend. And I never objected to that. I always wanted my son to have both parents. Just because he was domestically violent towards me, I didn't have reason to believe that he would be violent towards our son. And I did have questionable, concerns about him having a sexual addiction, and also concerns with stuff I found on the computer of communication of what looked like an exchange of live cam time with a girl that may be 7 years old. Oh, wow. I tried to keep that evidence back many years ago in 2015 on that laptop, and I brought it to Arizona, left it with my mom, and said, in case something ever happens in the future, I never thought with my son. I thought I never thought because he was a boy, which is a really dumb misconception to think. I really hate that I thought that because he was a boy that made a difference in a sexual predator's mind. It didn't. So when I had enough of him being, erratic behavior and stalking and sitting outside my home drunk, with my children inside sleeping, I said enough is enough after having 5 years of full custody of him.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'm going to update the courts. So I just did a simple modification. I took nothing away. I asked for no child support. I asked for no back due support. I didn't take any time, and I just asked for a communication app and that everything stayed the same. So we went into court on June 21st, 2022, and we had signed and agreed this modification, to update the courts. I mean, it had been what was in effect already, but, just to update it in the courts. So I didn't have that 2017 one lingering over my head of fear for my son being ripped away from his life. And I started to have concerns about his behavior and his safety with his father, but I, continued to think, okay, well, I'm sure he can work it out, and I'm sure it's okay, and I'm sure he's all right. I really thought like my son would come to me if it was not all right. We
Right,
have
you
a
would
very
think that
good
you'd be seeing
relationship.
signs and that he would be noticeably
Oh yeah.
upset or hurt or
Now that I
whatever,
look
right?
back, the signs are all there. Now that I look back, it didn't dawn on me then, the signs. Like in kindergarten, he would draw very explicit pictures that were of like penises that were like shooting, you know what, and
Right,
with like little persons catching it in a net and boobs and I would ask him about the pictures, and he would just come up with some explanation that was just like, oh, well, no, this is like that, and and this is this, and and I
right,
tried to be like, okay, well, kids draw weird things that don't look like, maybe I'm misunderstanding like the drawing, okay,
right,
and that was questionable, and I was, but a kid's drawing could be interpreted in any way, so I kind of didn't
right.
see it then. But then moving forward, I started to see a pattern of like when he would return home from the weekends, he would be so aggressive and so mean and isolation. He started to have weird bathroom habits where he would leave like pieces of toilet paper all around the floor around the toilet, and I
Yep.
didn't understand why. Later on, he told me like because the toilet paper was rough on his bum after being assaulted, he would
Wow.
like shred it in pieces. So like that's why he was leaving it around the toilet like that. Now when he had told me, I literally walked in the door from signing, this arrangement, and my son was sitting at the doorway, and he said, "Mom, I can't do it anymore." And I hadn't even taken my shoes off yet, like from court. So I immediately sat down with him. I said, "Do what anymore, bud?" Because I didn't talk to him about court, it was not going to change his life
Right,
in any way. His father, he told me, had told him about court, and actually his father had said like, it's all your fault and all this stuff, and blamed him. And my son said, "I can't do it anymore. I can't see my dad anymore. He hurts me." And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I just signed this. Like, what am I going to do?
right,
And he disclosed drinking and driving, being hit like repeatedly with like having his pants pulled down and being repeatedly spanked over and over and over to the
oh
point of
my
having
God,
like bumps. He couldn't sit down. He couldn't ride
right,
his dirt bike. The way he pushed through pain is unbelievable. He trained his brain to feel no pain, at all. So when he did come out about the extent of the abuse, it was it was like, okay, June 21st, the first disclosures come out. Then July 3rd, he tells me he's touched him inappropriately in his privates.
oh my gosh,
And
yep,
at that point, I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. I have no clue what to do. I called the police. I called a doctor. And I didn't want to call DCF, but I was like, okay, well, they're inevitably going to be involved. Like, this is just how this goes now. Ever since they have this multidisciplinary team, versus having law enforcement handle crimes such as like child, rape,
right,
and sexual assault, I would think that like, why is DCF trumping all of these other like law enforcement are trained detectives that actually conduct investigations that will put this person in front of, have them arraigned and say,
right,
this is the charge, and are you guilty or are you innocent, and that didn't happen because of DCF's intrusion. Like basically what they do is they put themselves ahead of everybody else, so they have the power of the say all, and they're just based off their opinion. And the crazy
right,
thing is they actually admit that he was assaulted. Like they admit that they're aware of it. They found him in support of sexual assault, and they put this in writing to me. And then this caseworker just flipped, and she started to be really cozy with the dad, like comforting him at like hearings, and she just switched her tune. And she then threatened me with a SANE interview at the DA's office. And I said, I had called them actually thinking that they were for mental health resources, because when he told me, let me tell you, it was like I didn't even know my own child. He regressed
right.
dramatically, like to an age of like a point of I've never even seen him because he's always been so mature. So it was like I didn't even know my own son, and he was so aggressive. He couldn't be trusted with his little brother. I mean, he would break things, kick things, threaten to jump off a 4-story porch if you had to see him. And I'm like, how do I stop him from seeing him? And you know, my son's threatening to jump off a porch 4 stories high if he has to go see him. Like, what do I do? You know, no one's listening to me, and DCF's ruining my credibility of my voice in the courtroom, being a pro se, you know, litigant. So it's like, what do I do? You know, and they just kept destroying me and, you know, lying under oath. And there was so many 51A reports, never, not one on me, but always of the father sexually assaulting the child. And I'm just going to date it that way. I'm working on separating the emotion from the events to like represent myself. So, you know, it was like they'd add me to every report. So eventually it hit winter time, and I had kept my son safe for as long as from June to December, and without going back to him. And then in December, a judge was like, okay, well, DCF says they have zero concerns with the father. He's been fully investigated. He had a SANE interview, which is, you know, the DA sits at, they do like an interview with like a two-way mirror with a detective, with ADA and a forensic interviewer and a social worker. And so they put the child in the room, and the forensic interviewer interviews the child. So right off the bat, my son knew that it was a two-way mirror, and he's very smart. So I don't know why, I didn't even know there was a two-way mirror. I had no clue what he was talking about when he came out, but he goes, the guy lied to me. And my son hates lies. He, like, if someone lies to him, you'll be in a debate with him for like 2 hours. You know, like, I had a debate about Trump, like, before the bus one day. We missed the bus, and I'm like, over Trump, and we're on the same side here, buddy. You know,
right.
So, like, that's just how he is. You know, so he's very strong believer in honesty, and like, I raised him to be that way. You know, and to have respect for people. And I think a lot of those things are like, he's starting to break down, not having me around. I'm hearing anyway, but which I know anyway, I'm his mother, I can feel that. But fast forward to what DCF did is just crazy, because they sent him back. They said to the judge, we have zero concerns with the father. Then they make a safety plan for, and let me just go backwards, sorry. So when they did the SANE interview, he was lied to right off the bat, so he automatically dropped the trust, you know, immediately. And kind of like, you know, reverted back into like, I don't want to talk to this guy because I know my son. If he's lied to, he doesn't want to talk to you. So and the guy confused him with words. He's like, I didn't understand what words the guy was using. Like, what's a groin? And I'm like, I don't even know if I know what a groin is versus a penis. Like a penis. Like, what kid would know that? You know, like, he uses his own words for things. Like, you know, like, why would you use words that, like, a kid's not going to know? So, and I didn't even want him to be interviewed because I felt that was unnecessary. At that point, DCF had already found him in support of sexual assault. And the DA's office already said, nope, we don't do multiple interviews. He's already been interviewed by DCF, and they found him in support of sexual assault. And that's actually scary in the sense of, like, if a parent was falsely accused, how easily they can be falsely accused. Just as scary as it is when the child's telling the truth, because it's that little of investigative. Like, they have no investigative skills compared to a detective, you know, that is, you know, crimes against children, like, unit. Like, they don't have any type of skills like that.
They just graduated from a lot of them, you know, they've just gotten out of their, you know, their political science classes. They don't have any skills, life skills out there with kids.
They don't even have kids of their own.
They have none of that.
They don't even have kids of their own. I've met so many, and not one even has a kid of their own. And I'm like, you don't even have, like, even the level of to say, like, I can relate to you as a mother to mother, or parent to parent, father to father. Not even on that level. They can't even relate to giving life to, you know, to a human being and that
Right.
life being their responsibility. They have no idea what that feels like. So, it's taken, I feel, so lightly when they rip a child away from a mother or a father or both
Yes.
parents, and they don't even know the implications of it. It was really sad. I read like the American Bar of Associations. It was actually like a cheat sheet for, like, say, a lawyer to use for examples as to why not to remove a child from primary caregiver. And these facts were so scary and disgusting to think that they know these are facts. They are statistically proven. But at the bottom of all of it, it stated, this has never been viewed by any type of, like, anyone in the family probate court system or anyone of DCF or any health human services, which was that
Right.
a child suffers 2 to 3 times more PTSD than a war veteran. Think about that.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then also a child's brain, actually the stressors and all of the things that are released, like, in their brain being taken from their primary caregivers, actually rewires their brain and basically changes who that child is naturally. It changes who they are and who they're going to be. And
Yep.
that to me just blows my mind, because it's like you're stealing who my child's going to turn out to be in this world.
Right.
You're going to make him statistically higher to have addiction, suicide issues, health issues of diabetes, and this
Trust issues.
hypertension and this,
Trust
that, like,
issues is huge.
that's crazy. Like, and then, oh wait, his life expectancy is 20 to 56 now, when we've
Right.
evolved to living to be 100. But you guys are like,
Right.
what's the word for de-evolution? Because
Right.
that's what DCF's name should be. I mean, it's de-evolving us, okay? It's not for the evolution of
It is.
people. Like, forget global warming. Like, what kind of
Right.
humanity are we
Let's
going to
talk
have
about
to
what they're
even go
doing
up?
to right. You want to talk about population control. All they're
Yeah,
doing is taking our kids away, and that's it. And they're binding them up with trust issues. They're never gonna
yeah,
want to procreate with other people. They're not gonna want
no.
to go through the experience. I mean, they are completely falling in line with
It's
what
so
everybody
scary.
would say 10 years ago, that it was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, exactly. And people still think it's some people out there still think it's conspiracy. Like, I hear these, like, people that will sympathize and be like, oh, these poor overworked social workers, underpaid. No, they're not. Drive into a DCF building's office where there's like 10 buildings and there's not a single car in the parking lot under 40K. Okay.
Right.
Like, so, like, I don't want to hear the, like, oh, poor me. I worked from my couch and I did a fill in the blanks. To, like,
Yeah.
their templates are actually fill in the blank.
Right.
Like,
I
that's
passed
scary.
judgment on this family that I met for 5 minutes yesterday, and now
Yeah.
I'm taking their kid.
And I'm just going to play fill in the blank with your life. Like, like, okay, fill in the blank,
Yep.
fill in the blank on a template while I'm sitting my ass on the couch and I'm doing nothing. And, like, I'm having a team meeting. We're all meeting as a team and we're conversing
Yep.
over this child, but we don't know shit and we don't care.
No.
And it's like, who's going to get a bonus? Like, like, it's ridiculous. So, like, what ended up happening with my son's case is they sent him back, and they put a safety plan in for the father, not
What?
for him, but for the father. And so, like, we talk about the best interest of the child. Okay, well, let's say for whatever purposes, you guys want to sit here and say, because you all said in support of sexual assault, then you flip-flopped, and you put that in writing, and then you flopped. And then afterwards, he has another interview. He says to the full-blown extent of anal penetration of what his dad does, and including drugging him and putting things in his water that knocks him out. Also, he tells them everything. So, and they call it a minimal disclosure. It was minimal, a minimal disclosure. No, that's the maximum of a disclosure that a child could possibly go through.
Normal, right?
And I'm sitting here like, this is insanity. Is this even real? Like, how can I even? And I'm hiding that I'm pregnant too, because I'm petrified that they're gonna steal my unborn baby.
Right.
I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know how this is America. I don't know how this is real. I'm my own lawyer. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So when they sent him back for the weekends in December, I knew that judge was at a point where it was like I did everything to keep my son safe with everything in me, nonstop, living like 2 days and counting to the weekend, literally, like how many days till Friday, because then he has to go back to that, and his dad wasted no time. Now, he was raped. The third weekend back, he came back drugged, and his eyes rolling back in his head. And he said, my dad did it again. And I immediately, I could hardly wake him up. His eyes kept rolling back. He said he was mad at himself, saying, I drank the waters. I drank the waters. He was like, but he didn't feed me, no one fed me. So it was like, he hadn't eaten since Friday when I dropped him off. And besides, later he said, like, no, Nanny his grandma gave him a shake or something. He's like, otherwise he ate nothing. But his dad was giving him waters that knocked him out. And he woke up and he didn't remember much of the weekend. It was basically just like his little bits of the weekend he remembered. But when he came home, he was in a state where I was like, is my child ODing? I don't know. I know that this house is a drug house. DCF would not physically look at it and deem it safe. I begged them to. I sent them newspaper articles. I sent them pictures of the inside of the house, of being in hoarding conditions, unlivable conditions. They would not go there and physically deem it safe. Like, they just said, okay, it's safe, And I'm like, no, it's not safe. Like, call even the town of Maynard's police department, and they're going to tell you that house is the last house you want any kid in. From the history that they have of that family. And so it was just like, I couldn't believe it. And I didn't know if my son what was in his system, because here we have a drug dealing uncle in the house. Then we have his grandfather who tried to attack him with like a makeshift, like, shank to his throat, like, a year earlier. And then spied on him through the windows. And he has cancer, so he has tons of medications. The grandmother has terminal cancer, bone cancer, so she has medications everywhere. And this whole like waters that would knock him out thing was like, what is he taught? What is that? Like, when he first said it, it was before the disclosures. And he was like, when you drink a water and your eyes get heavy and like your head drops. And me and my partner looked at each other and we're like, no, right? Like, that doesn't happen when you drink a water. We watch you crush waters all day long. Like, where does this happen to you? Like, and he was like, never mind. Like, because that was before he came out about everything. So when he came home that night, despite the fact that, this is the crazy thing too, is DCF, I had an appointment for him to be seen at the UMass Child Protection Program, which this is a big topic for my life tonight. Child Protection Program. They specialize in child victims of sexual assault. So they do like examinations. I didn't know the extent of these examinations, being like that they're recorded of their genitals and like with a scope and whatnot. I didn't know it was like that, but I had made an appointment thinking that it was like, okay, well, if obviously any parent's going to think, now I know my child's mentally falling apart everywhere all day from sun up to sundown. I need mental health resources, and I'm on a 6-month wait list and I have no help.
Of course.
I don't specialize in this, So there's that, and I have them on the long list. And then so we can get mental health resources there. Okay, they also do a physical exam. Well, I would like to know that my son's physically okay, considering he's a child, and you think about sticking an adult body part in a child, and everything goes through your mind. Everything, you're devastated in every aspect. And, I thought, okay, like, well, I want to make sure he doesn't have any STDs or like, or any type of damage to him. So I don't know, like it's uncomfortable to even talk about, because it's just like, you have to think about all these things that you would never think of that you think you'd have to think of when you have your child and bring them into the world. There's no handbook for like what to expect, like when you're not expecting that your child gets, like by their parent,
from their own family, even more.
Yeah, by the father, like of their own family, which is the case actually like 70% of the time. It's by a family
Right.
member. So, it's really sad, the
Now, they
statistics
still,
of children.
they still push for his visitation with his father.
Oh, yes, they did. They favor child pedophilers like you wouldn't believe. They favor them. Like, in all cases I've learned ever since this all is that, like, no matter what, in a case like this, you lose your child. Like, you do. You lose your child no matter what. Like, and I just, like, I can't tell you how much, like, I love all I have 3 children. I love them all equally, but all in their own way. And,
Right.
my firstborn son he's like my, I don't want to, like, it sounds stupid because I never use this term, but he's like my ride or die. Like, he's like
Right.
my best friend. He's, we have gone through times of, like, cars broken, but, we both trucked it down to the grocery store and, pushed our carriage all the way up. And, like, I look at those things in life as, like, that was character building, like, and we would laugh about it later, like, and as hard as it would be, like, and it made him strong, whatever we faced together when it was just the two of us. And, it's really hard because I know my son so well that I know he has 2 sides to him. He's a Gemini, but, like, even at that, he's so kind and so generous and so honest and so respectful. But there's also a side of him that can make a grown man cry and cut him down to being on his knees crying.
Right.
Like, he can be brutal. Like, and if he's brutal, he's gonna make you cry. Like, he'll hit you in, like, the worst ways that are so hurtful. And that side of him can be taken over with the influence of his father. And, like, it would take me to, like, Wednesday to get my, like, oh, hey, you're back. Like, that mean side of you is not cool. Like, can we get rid of that? Like, before I knew about everything. But of course, he had a right to be so angry. I just didn't know. But now I'm hearing, through the grapevine where he is being held temporarily, that he's starting to get very, like, upset and angry. Like, he just smashed an iPad, like a brand new iPad. He smashed it, and I'm like, and I know the person, like, so his principal ended up taking him in. So this caseworker bunked, like, I don't even know how any of this was done. So what happened was after he was sexually assaulted and I brought him to Framingham Union, and I got him out of Worcester. It was an extra 15-minute ride for better health care. So I went there, and he woke up for a brief, amount of time, enough to tell them what was going on, what his dad had done, that he woke up with his bum bleeding. He was given another water. He was knocked back out. That his dad has a history of doing this. And they very quickly made the decision to transfer him right to Boston by ambulance. And so we end up in Boston. He was admitted there. Multiple specialists came down through the, being in the hospital, infectious disease specialists, the like collection kit, like if you want to have a collection kit done, and, for evidence. And, my son, I gave him the choice, because it's his body, and, like, where he has lived a life of not having a choice over his body. I, of course, say it's your choice, whereas this child protection program that I had made an appointment for myself, even for him, because no one would see him, not his primary care, not a hospital, because it had been past too long to be considered an emergency, since he was last assaulted, from what he told me. So it put me in this tough position where I'm like, where does he receive health care? So I thought this place was, where kids can receive health care that have been assaulted. So, I make an appointment there. I go into court, and the caseworker says, she's lying. She doesn't have an appointment there. And I'm telling them, yes, I do, Your Honor. I have the confirmation in my hand right now, of the appointment. And I said, can I show it to you? And she said, no. The father objected immediately because, like, anything that would show any evidence of God forbid, what he really is doing. He was like, he objected. He didn't even have his attorney speak. He spoke outside of his attorney and said, nope, I object. I don't want my son spoken to for mental health or any physical health. I couldn't have my child have any medical resources. By DCF, they revoked my right to have any medical resources for him, but specifically the UMass Child Protection Program. So it had made me cancel that appointment. And following that, when they took him and kidnapped him from his school, I was outside the courtroom waiting for a pretrial, I thought, thinking judge number 6 is going to actually see evidence, because not one judge prior has seen a single shred of evidence in this case at all. So, and I thought that he dropped his attorney, that like it was going to be beyond an even playing field, because like I had learned so much about the law at that point, I was going to bury him. He ended up with 2 witnesses. I had over like 7, including expert witnesses that would be subpoenaed. And it was just like, I was ready for all of the trial, everything. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I wrote my memorandum, I wrote the witnesses, exhibits, contested, uncontested facts, all of it. Like, it was like I had to go through like rapid law school of myself. Like, it was not fun. It's not fun. I'm still doing it. And it was exhausting. But regardless, I'm standing outside the courtroom where I was told to stand. And I see Molly Folly Foster. That's her name. Like, I don't know if she gave herself that name or what, but Molly Folly Foster come up, and she is sitting right in front of me, and I'm just staring at her, and she's turning like 50 shades of redder to the point of like purple. And I wouldn't break contact from looking at her, because like last time I'd seen her, she had sent my son to go back into a drug house to get raped. And no, actually, I'm sorry. I did see her one time after that. She came to the door when I got home, just got my son comfortable and all settled in his room and stuff. And I get a knock at the door, unannounced. Her and her supervisor show up at my door. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm deathly ill, like safe, like with a cold. He just got out of the hospital. We just got home, and they're giving me a piece of paper trying to tell me that I need a mental evaluation. That my other son, I need a mental evaluation. I literally looked at them, and I was like, I go, what the fuck is this? And they say, excuse my language, but I was done. Yeah. I'm looking at it and I see mental evaluation, and I was like, you know what? I was like, there are a lot of people that are mentally ill involved in this, starting with you, Molly. Like, you're mentally ill. And then secondly, we're going to go with who should be first mentally. The person who thinks it's okay to use their child's body for their own sexual pleasures. That's a problem. I think that person is top chart of mentally ill.
Right.
So why don't you go knock on his door and never come back to my door ever again? And that would be wonderful. Oh, and by the way, look behind you. Is this guy mentally ill that's delivering a box from CVS of HIV prevention medication for an 8-year-old child? Is Boston Children's Hospital are they mentally ill? Are they more underqualified than you guys? Like, what did my son tell you before you told the judge you had no concerns with him going back? Like, I wanted to kill this lady. Like, I hate to sound like awful. Like, I'm not not like that as a person. I'm very kind, peaceful. I don't like. Right. I am not like that. But when it comes to my kids and the fact that my son he could have avoided ever being assaulted again, but no. Instead, this lady is the say-all. So I don't see her again after that, and I just meet with the supervisor. I let him come to my door once a month, and I say, here's kid 1, here's kid 2, bye. See you later. Why I have a case, I have no idea. Please do tell me. I have no idea what I'm in neglect of. I did too much. That was neglect. I didn't do enough because you guys revoked my right to have him medically examined. And then I was found in neglect for not having him medically examined. Jesus. That makes sense, right? Yeah, total sense. So I was finding neglect for them being negligent.
You're the non-offending parent. Like, did any charges? If any charges come to this?
So this is
again,
the thing that's crazy is I'm going to try to pursue charges here because at this point now it's all over the place. But what happened is the Maynard police. So now it pulled it out of Worcester District where DCF obviously has their claws in, DA Joseph Early, Joseph D. Early. I don't know if you know of anything of him, but if you look into him, he's got a shady history and he just, this guy's awful. Like I ended up calling him a sick man. He called my son just not a win.
Just not a win. Wow.
He's just not a win. And I was like, excuse me? You only prosecute child rapists for that are just wins? Like what? Okay, excuse me. So I had some not so friendly words with his office after that comment. And when this happened, because the safety house, she deemed, it went into another district. So the Maynard police fell under Middlesex County. So then he was given another sane interview. At this point, he had already come forward about anal penetration being the extent of the abuse. He was ready to speak about it, whereas DCF expects children to be able to talk about what it is in a 14-day span, where it's like, that's leading, like that's pushing, that's not okay. But a parent can't say, if your kid says so-and-so touched me, you can't ask them well, where and what way? That's leading, that's coaching.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not. That's called being a parent and trying to understand if your child misunderstood or if you're misunderstanding your child or if there's a serious problem here. You got to ask, what, you got to clarify a few things, They don't know sexual terminology. So, depending on the age, it's difficult. My son didn't know how to explain an erection. So he was like, it's full, and that was his way of describing it. Now, I didn't correct him in any way. I just said, yeah. He's like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, I know what you mean, bud. And then just so he felt comfortable to keep going, and not stop because he didn't have the right word. And he ended up disclosing fully what, his dad was doing. But it's just, they have these expectations of the kid has to, in this time frame, a very thorough investigation. So thorough, they didn't even ask the father, hey, your son said you touched him. Did you touch him? They didn't even ask him. Not even as much as ask him. In his interview with the police station, it was optional. Optional. And I was just like, it was optional, yeah. And the great thing too, that I was actually just on the phone with the lieutenant from the Clinton police station yesterday, and I was like, yeah, you remember how you did an investigation into your detective that wrote of all those false reports to DCF about me, stating that he remembered being a cop, not a detective at the time, a cop at the time, and responding to multiple domestic violence calls on behalf of when we were together. Yeah, because I was a domestic violence victim, and you never helped me. Him and all the other cops would shake hands. He was an EMT, so he's like, oh, you know what it's like, I respect you guys so much. They were buddies. I got hit in the face with a canteen bottle one night, so hard, from my temple down to my jaw. And that same cop, who is now a detective, shined a light in my face and said, oh yeah, she's really a mental one. Yep, she's definitely mental. She hit herself. I was like, I don't think it's even physically possible to hit yourself from that angle, from being the height he is. What do you mean? And why would I hit myself? And someone else called the cops, outside the house. I didn't call for help. I just hoped I wasn't gonna die. Every other time he would fucking attack me. So I didn't know what to do. This guy, the police station never protected me. So this detective had it out for me. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. And he made up this whole story about talking to me that he put in DCF. And he called himself a fact finder. And he's like, so I talked to Mr. Stefano and I told her that she should be happy that her son was not sexually assaulted because I'm a fact finder. And I know that he wasn't. And I was present for her almost successful suicide, as I have firsthand knowledge of her mental illnesses. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, when I read this, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I've never tried to kill myself in my life. Like what? Wait a second, what? So I'm like, this is very easily disprovable. So when I went down to the town hall of Clinton, and I was like, you have a detective on your force that made these damning statements towards a domestic violence survivor and her child, who's now who's a sexual assaulted victim of that. And he made these comments that are very easily disproven. Can I see the records of an ambulance or a 72-hour hold at the Clinton hospital? Where'd you take me? What ambulance was called? What ambulance company called? Who resuscitated me? How did I do it? How was this supposed suicide?
Right.
Like, if he couldn't have been any stupider to make a comment such as that could be disproven so easily, Mr. Fact Finder.
Right.
So I had just called her yesterday, the lieutenant, and I'm like, well, you investigated this last year and you had found, that he in fact, fabricated these stories of me and threatened to investigate me for child abuse. Well, guess what, buddy? I at least know jurisdiction. You're in Clinton and I'm in Spencer. So jurisdiction wise, you can't. Like, you're just talking out your ass. But I'm not abusing my child. Someone in your town is. So I stood up to everyone. I could not take it. I was like, enough is enough. You guys are I'm calling you all out. And I think that's what kept my son safe as long as it did. But then it hit a point where like DCF was going to, I think that they would have actually just stepped aside and continued down the road that they were going, of just like, we're going to like back up. But Molly seemed to have, now this rogue employee seemed to have this really vendetta for me or whatever. I think because I constantly called her out for her lies. I sent her text lies back to her all the time. And eventually she just, I don't know what happened in the removal of my son. I can't tell you. I don't know what type of removal it was. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what judge did it. But I was told that while I was sitting outside waiting pretrial, Molly Foster got called in. I didn't think she was there on my son's case because I had been seeing a new caseworker for almost 8 months. And my caseworker, who I don't even want to say my caseworker because like I don't know what I had a case for. So I only met her outside with a here's kid 1, 2, 3, bye. Get out of my life. I had talked to that morning and she was like, no, I'm not going to be present. Like DCF didn't request me to be there, and whatever. So I'm like, okay, great. DCF's out of the way. Like he has no lawyer. Like it's on, like you're going down, buddy. And here Molly goes in. They led the judge to believe that I just didn't show up to the pretrial and didn't say, oh yeah, she's outside the courtroom. So I didn't even know what happened. And when I saw him come out with a huge smile on his face, I panicked and I was like, what just happened? Molly's coward ass obviously waited in the back somewhere because like she knew I'd probably attack her or some shit, which I probably would have. I don't think I would have, but I think I would have wanted to. So she had actually, I don't know what happened, but what I'm getting bits and pieces of is that he petitioned the courts in connection with the social worker who was not my or his assigned social worker. But they went in together and petitioned the courts for the courts to take Ryan into DCF custody and make Molly Foster the guardian of my son.
What?
Yes, and that's what they did. This crazy lady was made the guardian of my child.
Wow.
And she walked. She left there and walked into my son's school as his guardian. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. My mom almost got tased at the school because the real caseworker I worked with for 8 months called me in a panic and was like, oh my God, I don't know what to say to you, Tanya. Like, I really don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what's going on. She's like, but they took Ryan. And like, do you have family to go down and get him? And I started freaking out. I had no idea. They told me, go have a great holiday. They said, don't worry about it. You'll get a letter in the mail, like, have a wonderful holiday. So they sent me home, from the courthouse, like, oh, you'll get another date in the mail. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. Like, glad it's not enough deal right now. And in reality, they're going to kidnap my son from his school. And my mom flies down there and she's like, no, I want my grandson right now. Now, Molly walked in and my mom said, no, like, I have a right as his grandmother to take him during this time. And she goes, right now we're taking applications. And my mom flat out was like, F you, my grandson's not for sale. Like,
Right.
you're not taking applications for him. So, like, I mean, she was just done. The cop there almost tased her. It was awful. And then, I mean, I was like, you should have just taken the tase. At least it would have gotten some media attention that it needs. But the school has been an amazing support system to my son. I can say that. So my son was not safe where he was. And he kept going to the school saying, I'm not safe. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. And the principal took him in. So, I'm very grateful for this community. I'm very grateful for the principal. I'm very grateful to the school, to have listened to my child and not discarded him like everyone else had.
Right.
They had listened to him and had the restraining orders on file for going on 2 years. They had known what had happened. I had several meetings with them in the school because there was a few incidents that required, letting them know what was going on. And,
Right.
And my son confided in the school counselor and told them what was going on. He was in class on a Friday and thought he might have to go to his dad's, knowing I was in court. And I was like,
Right.
I can't hide that from him because I leave the house in, heels and a skirt and not what you usually see me in. So it's not like I can lie to him and I would never lie to him anyway. I can't lie to my
Right.
child. I don't know what world, DCF lives in that they think that, like, by not preparing your child for what's coming is not okay. It's like, no, you prepare your child for the world. You prepare your
Right.
child for what's to come. You don't not
Yep.
prepare them. So, like, they're just off the wall, like, in their whole mental. I feel like it's Nazi Germany. Like, the
Yeah.
tactics that they've been using are unbelievable.
Yep. You would never think you sit there and you wait for justice to come rushing to your seat.
They're using, obviously my son's Achilles tendon. Me.
Mm-hmm. You. Right.
Who's his?
You sit
I'm
there and you
his.
wait
He's
for the
mine.
judges.
Like,
you wait
they're
for these people to
using
come
us
and
against
see
each
you.
other. Sorry, am I still there?
Yeah, you're here. I'm saying you wait for the justice to come
Hello?
to you. Like, you're like, these judges, someone help me, please, Oh, we lost her, Herbert. Tanya, there you are. Where are you, Tanya? Tanya, where is she? There she is. Bring her back here. Tanya, there you go.
Oh,
Tanya,
you
you're
guys
here.
stop.
There you are. There you go.
Hold on one.
There you are. Tanya, you're here, right? Tanya. Well, Herbert, what did you think about that?
Well, I think that she has a lot going on there.
There's a lot.
I don't understand why the law enforcement didn't get involved more with the sexual harassment part.
Yeah, or the sexual conduct towards the child. Like, there's no police at all.
No, something don't sound right there. And this rushing her right off the kids off to CPS. I understand the father has custody. Am I correct?
Well, the principal now had the custody of the child, but yeah, the father was given custody and all of that, and even after the response.
And she had the father had custody, but she had visitation.
Correct.
Okay, So with that, knowing that she has visitation, why was the child given to the father?
This is what they do, man. Unfortunately, this is what they do. This is what they do.
No, it's equal. I hear where the mother is given the child and father has visitation.
Right. Well, what they do is typically they give the child back to the abusers. Whatever they've got going on for that purpose, they give the child back to the abuser. And it's sickening that this is going on. And we hear it a lot. We hear it way more than we should. It's disgusting. It's in no way that the system is meant to be. And these are the kids that are falling through the cracks when it's blatantly evident.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like to have heard from her, why did they deny mommy visitation of the child? Not visitation. Why did they didn't allow mommy to have custody of the child and giving daddy visitation?
Right.
What was the reason they gave her for why she, the mother, couldn't have custody and the father would have visitation? Yeah. That's what I wanted to know.
Right. I would like to know. Well, she said that she tried many times to get them to press charges and nothing ever happened too. So I think, you know what, I'm going to reach out.
No, but that's not answering my question.
Right.
My question is, where was it determined that the father's going to have custody and you're going to get visitation, mother?
Right.
What made that? How did that come about?
Right.
Because remember, it was 50-50.
Right. And then
it was a 50-50 from the beginning.
Well,
so why did they choose the father to have the kid and the mother not have the kid?
Right. Well, I'm going to reach out to her and we'll see if we can't get her back on for some more questions because we lost her here off the side.
The other thing too I was going to mention to you is that with this segment, this could have been a part 1, part 2.
Oh, for sure.
You see, but that's why I was waiting for you to come in.
Yeah, well, we'll get
because
there.
You could have came in and say, hey, let's have you come back tomorrow and
which we
explain
will. I will
more.
definitely reach out to her. I was just totally intent with listening to what she was saying. I just couldn't believe this stuff and how this is, this is information that needs to get out there so people can understand that this is what's happening. But I'm definitely going to reach out to Tanya and we'll get her back.
And Melissa's completely gone, so she didn't even hear Tanya.
Melissa fell off the grid somewhere, but that's all right. All right, Herbert, we'll wrap this one up for tonight. We're way over our time slot. We almost did 2 hours. So,
yeah, because Darren has to come in and say, hey, let's pick this up tomorrow.
Well, let's
pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'll get her back, and I wanted the world to hear her. I wanted the world to hear her story. So it's very important that stuff gets out here.
I know, but you got to remember the world thinks that this is going to be an hour.
Yes, well, they got a special edition tonight. All right, Herbert, I'm going to call you right after this.
Seriously. Okay, are you really going to call me?
I'm going to call you in just about 2 minutes.
Okay, fine.
All right,
I'm waiting for your call.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
That's it. That's an extra long episode for you guys. I know that. And I apologize, but I don't apologize because Tanya's story needs to be told, and people need to understand that this is what happens. This is how these things goes. The abuser gets the child in most cases, and it's it's mind-boggling why and how and so on. But this is what happens, and until we can step in and do something to stop this, because there's no reason for what that little child has been going through. There's no reason for what she's been going through, and there's no reason for anything that family has been going through. So please put them in your prayers. Think about them tonight. Think about them children. I'm CPS Punisher. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll try to get Tanya back, and yeah, good night all till we come back.